The 2022 NASCAR playoffs were wild and crazy through every round leading up to the championship. From multiple part failures, underdog wins, walk-off wins, and even NASCAR's version of the Hail Mary. Each round was action-packed and thrilling. In this video, we're going to be looking at the championship race at Phoenix. If you haven't seen parts 1, 2, or 3 yet, I highly recommend you give them a watch to catch up on how we got here. So with that out of the way, let's dive into the video. To quickly recap the remaining 4 drivers fighting for this championship, we had Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Christopher Bell, and Ross Chastain. Both Elliott and Logano were trying to win their second championships. Chastain and Bell were trying to win their first. Each driver had a legitimate reason to win this championship. Logano was the fastest car all weekend, Elliott was the best driver all year with the most wins, Bell was the sentimental favorite for Joe Gibbs after Coy Gibbs tragically passed away the night before the race, and Chastain's team had the mentality of, why not us, and that's how they got to this point in the first place. This championship really felt like any of these drivers can win, and with how unpredictable the playoffs were, it was not going to be over until that checkered flag was out. The field took the green flag with Joey Logano leading the field. As previously mentioned, Logano was without a doubt the strongest car of the weekend, having swept the fastest practice time and pole position already. Early on, Logano would jump out to a lead, while the rest of the championship 4 would begin to march their way to the front of the field. Ross Chastain started the furthest back, but quickly began to make up ground and go towards the front. Joey Logano's teammate Ryan Blaney would have some near-disaster moments. He scraped the wall and then made contact with Corey LaJoie. Logano would go on to win the first stage in dominating fashion, and only one other Championship 4 driver would finish in the top 10 in this stage. Stage 2 started the same way as Stage 1. Joey Logano would take the lead and jump out early. This time, however, we would see Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott battling it out in their attempts to march towards the front. The first caution for cause would come out when Landon Castle and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. crashed on the backstretch. The green flag came back out with some new players at the front of the field, but Logano would immediately pass them going into turn 2 and retake the lead. For Logano, this race so far was smooth sailing, but if you looked at the rest of the Championship 4, they were battling lap after lap with each other, even going 3 wide amongst the remaining 3 of them. There were 2 strategy calls for this stage, as some drivers decided to come in and pit for tires and gas, while the 22 and his teammate Ryan Blaney attempted to stretch until the end of the stage. Blaney would end up passing Logano, and he would go on to win the second stage. The final stage got going, and then a quick caution would occur when Tyler Reddick and Michael McDowell crashed. This caution set up the first big moment for a Championship 4 driver. On the following restart, Chase Elliott would get spun out by Ross Chastain. Chastain would time the restart perfectly and position his car to the inside of Elliott. Elliott would attempt to block, but Chastain would not lift, sending the 9 into the wall. This contact didn't look too bad for Elliott, but unfortunately it took him out of contention for the rest of the championship race, meaning the driver with the most wins during the regular season would not be competing for a championship after this crash. Many say Ross Chastain wrecked Chase Elliott, as Ross Chastain was very aggressive during the entire season, but looking back on it, Ross Chastain had every right to not lift because he had position on Elliott. The race got back going again, and then with less than 70 laps to go, we saw our final round of green flag pit stops. This cycle would bring Christopher Bell to the back bumper of Joey Logano, and now Christopher Bell had an opportunity to pass Logano and try to hold on to win the championship. The final caution would come out when Alex Bowman, who by the way was making his return after missing the last few races with a concussion, crashed on the backstretch. This caution would set up a 30-lap shootout and bring cars on the pit road once again. Christopher Bell would have a terrible pit stop, and this would take him out of contention from winning the championship. So now it came down to Joey Logano and Ross Chastain. Under caution, Brad Keselowski's car would catch on fire, and then the final restart would take place. We saw Joey Logano only separated by a few positions from Ross Chastain. Logano would eventually pass the race leader Chase Briscoe, while Ross Chastain mounted a charge. Logano would begin to click down the laps, while Chastain would do everything he could to try to catch him. Many believed he would attempt another Hail Melon like he did in the previous week at Martinsville, but Phoenix has walls that probably didn't allow for that to happen. Everybody knew Chastain was going to try something, but as the laps dwindled down, he was too far back and eventually he ran out of time. Joey Logano would go on to win his second championship, while Chastain would finish second in the rankings, then Bell, and then Elliott. What was also neat was the 22 car won the championship in the year 2022, capping off an incredible playoffs that had so many storylines through each of the first few rounds, and even in the championship race. If we recap this race quickly, outside of Logano having the best car for most of the race, each other Championship 4 driver had the opportunity to steal this championship, but at different points in the race. Chase Elliott seemed to be an early competitor who can keep up until he got crashed. Then late in the race, Christopher Bell had the opportunity to steal the championship, but he had a bad pit stop. And then in the final few laps, Ross Chastain was closing in and just ran out of time. Who knows if he would have tried another bonsai move like he did in the previous week. You couldn't prematurely give this championship away, even going into the final corner on the last lap. You just knew that the guy chasing Joey Logano was going to do anything he could to try to win. So realistically, this championship was not over until that checkered flag was out. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Did you enjoy these entire playoffs through? I believe these are one of the most entertaining playoffs since NASCAR adapted them back in 2014. I look forward to hearing your opinions, and I appreciate you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.